Okay, so
How many
Erster
people
didn't do
did
that.
Barack Obama...
Oh, golly gee, she's a critic of Israel. She got deported. She got rounded up anyway. And neither did so many others. But hey, every critic of Israel is rounded up coincidentally. And then I found a cousin of an uncle of an aunt who once said something mean about Israel, and that's it. Round them up. Okay. Are you all pretending that Israel didn't order Trump to do this?
Our country, like, you know what, a heroin addict, when they finally stop doing the heroin and they put them in a room, they're detoxing, they're shaking, they're sweating, they're going through a bunch of, the bodies are convulsing. That's what America's going through, Piers. We've been hooked on this freaking government, everybody walking all over us, every country taking advantage of us. It's going to hurt for a little while, Piers, but guess what? The tariffs are going to work. Stock market jumped 400 points today. Everybody needs to chill.
I'm sick of it when Biden sent blank check after blank check to do the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. And now Trump says, hold my beer. I could do even better. I'm just going to, any critic of Israel, I'm going to trash the First Amendment. He was theoretically for freedom of speech. This is cancel culture on steroids.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so as you can see from that intro, we got a Piers Morgan debate coming in. And yes, it's not Saturday, as a matter of fact, but I happen to be off today, and I love doing these, so I'm going to go ahead and do those. And we're going to have a very robust debate today, if you will. But before we get into it, what I would love to say to everybody out there that is going to go down into the comment section and say, I couldn't watch but 30 seconds of this, and then they rage quit, I would challenge you guys to watch the entirety of the video. Challenge your worldview, challenge your ideas, put those ideas out onto the table and let them be challenged, and see if your worldview comes out stronger at the end of it. See if some facts, some logic from the other side doesn't make you reassess your worldview, for crying out loud. Like, I would challenge you people to do this, because sure, you could go ahead and stay in your echo chamber and stay siloed from the rest of the world if you want to, but diversity of thought doesn't mean diversity of the entire same worldview and just having that reinforced constantly and, thinking along those lines more diversely. No, it means diversity of everything, all of your ideas from both sides. So I would challenge you people to do that. Let me know down in the comment section what your ideas are, how I am wrong, blah, 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 blah. Work through these things. And once again, if your worldview is robust enough to be challenged and come out stronger, there you go. Reinforcement achieved, if you will. But before we get into the debate, I'm just do this real quick. I got to. Y'all smash that like button for me. Subscribe to this channel if you could. Join the channel. We got memberships now, so y'all go ahead and do that. I would be eternally appreciative of that. But without any further ado, let's bounce into it right quick, y'all.
Let me start with you, Cenk. Where are we with Tariff Gate? Because it seems to me the biggest problem right now for the administration is not the principle of leveling tariffs, which can be debated, or the overarching philosophy behind it, which is that America should be doing more manufacturing. I think most people agree with that. The real problem is the constant mixed messaging from the top people at the White House is causing, I think, real uncertainty and real damage, not least to Donald Trump's approval ratings on the economy.
Yeah, 100%. There's really no argument about it. I mean, the folks that are saying art of the deal are hilarious. So, and it can be proven very simply. So first, he does these global, massive nuclear tariffs. So as you know, Piers, on this show, I said they'll never last. They're maniacal. And I also said, as you're pointing out, that tariffs can be done right. They could be targeted and strategic based on industries or countries in specific. So then Donald Trump backpedals, and you can tell it's a backpedal and not some sort of art of the deal, because he got absolutely nothing in return. So the 90-day pause was based on zero give back from any other country. It's because he had miraculously crashed the stock market and the bond market at the same time, which was previously held unimaginable, because one is supposed to go up while the other one goes down, but he managed to do both. And now China tariffs is super strong. Okay, just exemptions for iPhones and electronics. Why? Because he hadn't thought it through. He hasn't thought through any of this. He's always doing this in a way that makes no sense at all. And by the way, if you like tariffs and you like the idea of rebuilding manufacturing in this country, Donald Trump just did massive damage to it. Because after this, who's going to want to do tariffs again? So there's absolutely no planning here. And then let's see how he negotiates, if he can negotiate with China at all. But it's done nothing but damage and gotten us no good return so far.
Okay, so I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but let me explain why that's utter nonsense. Now, he leaves out a bunch of facts that have everything to do with the art of the deal. I know he likes to say, oh, that's hilarious, blah, 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 but that's exactly what it is, because if we go and look at everything and how it was set up, right, there were some tariffs that come out, you know, auto tariffs, steel and aluminum, blah, blah, blah. Just a little bit of tariffs here on specific places. Those are the targeted tariffs that Cenk was just talking about. I love how he says it's not the art of the deal. And then he goes on to explain why it exactly was the art of the deal, right? So he gets those tariffs out of the way. Boom. And then what? A couple weeks later, Donald Trump comes out, blanket tariffs for freaking everybody. And the entire world just loses their mind. We have a complete meltdown. You know, the stock market freaking crashes. Boom, the bottom freaking fell out. And you know, that's what it was. He says he got nothing in return. That's a lie. We've gotten trillions of dollars of investment into the United States, mostly because of that. Right? We're getting these deals worked out, and they love to say, oh, he put a pause on that because the bond market. No. That's because all these other countries were immediately got on the phone and called up the White House and said, we need to talk. So Donald Trump says, but they're forgetting a key thing, right? So Donald Trump gets on the phone with these people and says, all right, let's work out a deal. I'm going to put a pause on your tariffs. But not all the way, did he? No, there's still a 10% tariff. So the tariffs are still there until we work all these deals out. He's just putting a pause on it, right? So this is how this is supposed to be done. We've already got guarantees from several countries all over the world that want to do a trade deal with the United States. That's what those were for. The previous tariffs, that was for the industrial base. And once again, we've gotten those promises, right? Sure, we haven't had enough time to see the results of that yet because it takes time to build manufacturing. It takes time to do these things. But what Donald Trump saw was the extraction of the United States economy going to the rest of the world. We're funding them being dragged out of the third world and into the first world. We are paying for that, for crying out loud. And unfairly, by the way. Why can't they have their own industrial revolutions without extracting that wealth from the United States? Now, this is what I love. A lot of people, they always say, oh, it's a tax on you, the tariffs, that is. It's a tax on you. You know, this kind of gets into the argument. This is where a lot of leftists that want to tax the rich kind of fall into a logical fallacy here, because it's the same thing. It's just from a different angle. Instead of Donald Trump taxing our own corporations, what is he doing with the tariffs? He's taxing foreign corporations instead of our own, while giving our own a tax break, allowing them to thrive. Now, a lot of people, they don't see it that way. They're like, no, it's a tax on you. They're just going to raise the price. Well, what do you think these corporations, if he were to just raise the corporate tax rate in the United States, what do you think is going to happen to every good in the United States? It's going to go up. That's just, you can't argue that, you know, these tariffs are bad because it's a tax on you, and then at the same time say, tax the corporations. No, I'm sorry. Donald Trump decided to tax the corporations to the rest of the world, and that's how that's supposed to work, right? Now, I will admit we won't see the results of this for quite a while, so we have no idea. Nobody knows, but you can't argue the opposite. Sure, you could make the argument, right? But we don't really know. I don't know. You don't know. None of us know. So let's keep going.
Let me bring Gordon. I want to change subject with you to these two big deportation stories. One involving this El Salvadorian, Kilmar Garcia, who's been sent to a prison in El Salvador, the country where he's come from. Now, he was residing in the United States. He was an illegal immigrant, but he was married in the United States with 3 children, all with special needs. He has always emphatically denied being a member of this gang, MS-13, despite the authorities believing that, from one source I understand, that they think he may have been. There's certainly been no sign of him involved in any MS-13 gang activity that anyone has brought forward as hard evidence. And in 2019, although he was on a list to be deported, I believe, his lawyers argued successfully that his life would be in danger if he was sent back to El Salvador from other gangs who had threatened him previously. What is your view of this? I mean, are you comfortable with America sending people from the United States to an El Salvadorian prison? And given they've accepted this appears to have been an administrative error in sending him because of this order in place not to send him back, why do they not just pick the phone up, the administration, to El Salvador's president and get him back?
Well, they should, because this was apparently a mistake, and the administration has not shown reason for it other than they made a mistake. But let's not, on the broader issue, it's going to be the United States needs to deport substantial numbers of people who came into our country with false asylum claims. Some of them are really dangerous, as we saw with the gangs that were attacking the homes in Aurora, Colorado. But from my perspective in China, we know that a certain number of Chinese migrants are either Ministry of State Security agents or they are People's Liberation Army officers or soldiers. And they are coming here for no good, because we are seeing this increased tempo of incursions and attempted incursions in our military bases, these drone flights, all the rest of it. This is extremely disturbing because they've come here to attack us. They're looking at our patterns, they're looking for our vulnerabilities, and they are ready to strike. So yes, we do need to deport a substantial number of people because this is a matter of national survival. And yes, the Trump administration should admit it made a mistake in this particular case and bring him back. There's no question about that.
Okay, this is one I've talked about at length, by the way. Okay, so this guy, Abrego Armando Garcia, or whatever the hell his name is, nobody even cares at this point. Like, my whole thing on this is, okay, so when he was arrested in 2019, okay, there's a lot of evidence to show that he was in the gang, as a matter of fact. You have the fact that he was arrested with known MS-13 gang members. He was wearing their clothing. The district attorney from that area has come out and said that, yes, that informant stated that he was one of the underlings, if you will, of the gang. Chiquito or something like that. I forget the name right off the top of my head, but essentially he hasn't murdered anybody yet, so he's not a full-fledged member of the gang, but he's an affiliate of the gang. This is what the informant told the judge. Okay, so an immigration judge believed that informant enough to say, okay, yeah, we're holding him. Yeah, we're not going to let him go. He's getting deported. Then an appellate judge agreed with that. So that's two judges agreeing that there's sufficient evidence that this guy is definitely at least close enough to a gang member to deport this guy. He was slated for deportation. Then the same judge said, okay, well, there's fears of retributive actions or whatever from his own country of El Salvador. Well, hang on. At this very time, Bukele was cleaning up El Salvador. Now, what does that mean? That whole fear of retribution from his country, or fear of persecution, whatever the hell the judge stated, right? That no longer exists. So there is no longer a reason to keep this guy in the country. Now, Democrats would love to die on the hill of Armando Kilmar Abrego Garcia, whatever the hell his name is, right? We had Senator Van Hollen almost just about may have violated the Logan Act just to go get this guy. Now, my next video coming up, we're going to go into a deep dive on the insanity of Lawrence O'Donnell, and this guy's just crazy. But getting back to this fact, right? Like, he's talking about Chinese immigrants. We're not deporting it. Yes, we are, as a matter of fact. We're deporting everybody we can. Now, this one in particular, the only reason that there was an administrative error was because of a Biden holdover went into court and said, oh, we made a mistake. Well, guess what? This guy was fired for lying to the court. As a matter of fact, go look it up. Yes, no, there is no reason whatsoever to hold this guy. We sent him back to his home country, but Democrats keep calling him, he's a Maryland father. Well, hang on just a second. After 2019, he became a father and got married. To do what? to try to anchor himself to this country. All for what we're seeing right now. Democrats getting all up in a bent out of shape, raising, screaming from the rooftops that, we need to die on this hill of Abrego Garcia, whatever the hell his name is. All right, nobody even cares. All right, so Democrats are absolutely getting on the side of alleged gang members. Yes, that's what they're doing. They are on the wrong side of history on this. We've seen poll after poll saying Americans 60 and 70% approve of the Trump administration's job on immigration currently, right? This is utter nonsense. We didn't hear any of this uproar when Obama was deporting citizens, did we? No, we didn't. As a matter of fact, we didn't hear a single peep from leftists at all when Obama deported 3.3 million criminal aliens. Not a single word from any of these people. The corporate press propped it up. And what do we get now? All of a sudden, the Trump administration, after 4 years of invasion that was allowed to take place by the federal government, now the federal government decides, hey, that was a problem. We need to clean this up. They decide, we're going to stop it now. I wonder why. Wonder why they are so vehement in their approval of criminal gangs being in this country and not wanting to get rid of them. None of this makes any sense at all. This is all absurd. This guy was probably an MS-13 gang member. The thing is, you could make the argument down in the comments, well, there's no evidence. Well, that's a lie. Go ahead, make that argument down in the comments. It's a lie. Make the argument that it was a mistake. That's a lie. They intentionally deported this guy, right? And once again, the corporate press is saying, well, the Supreme Court said you got to bring him back. That also is a lie. It is a blatant lie. They said facilitate his return. That's very different than make sure and bring him back. That's very, very different. That hinges upon the fact that if El Salvador releases this guy from custody, that we are to give him a ride back to the country. Now, this is the crazy part. All of these Democrats, all of these people are yelling, screaming, gnashing their teeth, bring this guy back for due process. He's got to have his due process. Well, for one, 2 points. One, he's already had his due process, and he was slated for deportation. For two, what do you people expect? This is what I really want to know from the comments section. What do you really expect to get this guy back? What do you think is going to happen? Due process. He's going to go through this due process hearing or habeas hearing, whatever, right? He's going to go through this, and then they're going to find, once again, for the third time, sufficient evidence that this guy was an MS-13 gang member, and he's going to be deported again. So we're getting all of this political capital being spent on this one man, all to waste federal tax dollars to get him back to the United States, to appease one federal judge, all to send him right back to El Salvador. That is right. That is what the left is applauding at this point. They are absolutely mad, livid, having meltdown after meltdown, temper tantrum after temper tantrum over one guy that is not an American citizen. It is insane, and I love it, y'all. I absolutely love it. But let's keep going.
Cenk is just fundamentally wrong about the difference in which the First Amendment is at play. Not because it doesn't apply to everyone. It does. It applies to me if I'm in the United States. It's not a First Amendment issue if you are supporting a terror group. Period.
It is.
End.
Right. Okay. So now a few things.
And what does it mean to support a terror group?
First of all, I think I'm not speaking for the left. I'm just speaking for me. And I think the big difference with the Trump deportations is that people are being rounded up for their ideas. And that's new. And that's chilling. And that's something that we have to think about and reckon with. And that is the important difference. And then, to Cenk, I would say, listen, they're not only rounding up anti-Israel people. Not as a Jew, but as a human being and as an American, I don't want to see anti-Semitism and the fight against anti-Semitism weaponized to erode people's civil liberties. That offends me as a Jew, as a human being, and as an American. But it's not just the anti-Israel protesters. There are Chinese citizens who are being deported. There are Russian citizens who have been sent back to very cruel fates who are against the Putin regime, who are now no choice but to go back. And just yesterday, they sent thousands of Afghans who helped the U.S. military for 20 years, who were in the process of securing what we promised them, which was safety from the Taliban by being able to live here. And we brought them here and we put them through a process, and they got an email saying, get out in 7 days. Okay, thousands of them. And all of my sources in the military community are aghast, Republican and Democrats, because these people sacrificed and worked and for our freedom, and or whether or not you agreed with that mission, and we're abandoning them. And they never said anything about Israel. You know, nothing, no views on Gaza whatsoever. So again, if the principle is you can just be thrown out without due process, then that's the principle that we have to think about and litigate. And no, I don't agree with you, Cenk. It's not just about Israel, although, again, criticizing Israel should not be grounds. And material support, that's the standard, not just support, material support. That's something that will have to be litigated. And, you know, I'm sure that you know, a lot of people will, including the targets here, will say, no, you know, passing out a pamphlet is not material support. And one last thing, Piers, you know, you said this on the show and you said this again today. If he had said something in the past that was the thing that he said in the present, then he wouldn't have got his green card. Well, you can't, you know, the time-space continuum doesn't work that way, because the circumstances 2 years ago were not the circumstances today. So we can't project a 2024 situation on whenever it was. It might have been 5 years ago that he had that interview, because there was no Gaza war. There was a different policy. Things have changed. People change. You know, the circumstances change. So we can't say that he lied on his green card application by not uttering the things that he thought 5 years later, because that's a logical fallacy. So let's just put that to the side and say that he deserves a right to his own defense. Full stop.
Okay, so no, people aren't being rounded up for their ideas. Like, full stop. Okay, the Secretary of State can revoke a green card, a visa, whatever it may be, for any reason. Doesn't matter. No due process. Blah, 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 blah. Right? The due process essentially is, yeah, we revoked his visa and that's it. For what reason? Well, state secrets. Boom. Can't do anything about it. Absolutely. The Secretary of State has that power. They can do that. Now, Cenk argues that, oh, well, this conflicts with the First Amendment. Well, the First Amendment doesn't have anything to do with this. Now, this is somewhere where we might agree, and I do agree with this guy, talking about all those Afghanis that helped us through the 20 years that we were in Afghanistan. They are getting deported. Now, I would take offense to some of this because, you know, a lot of those guys risked life and limb to help the United States in a war that we shouldn't have been there in the first place. Got to give props to that. And I don't like this idea. However, I really don't like the idea. And I'm not trying to make excuses for the administration. However, the Trump administration has seen over the Biden administration millions upon millions upon millions of people come into the country. The people have spoken. We want to get these people out. And he is just rounding up everybody he can. Now, once again, I take offense to that, because do these people actually deserve to be deported? If they actually helped us in that 20-long-year war in Afghanistan, then I don't think they do. But once again, that would be something I would need to look at individual case after case to see where their loyalties lie, if you will. But, you know, I would probably side on the side of the Afghans on this one. I don't think those people need to be deported. But at the same time, what do? There's so many criminals in this country, and Donald Trump is trying to make America safe again. And this is a line that has to be crossed, I believe. I believe it does at some point. Do we like it? No, we don't like it. Are we going to criticize this? Abso-freaking-lutely. Criticize Donald Trump for doing this, but I believe, you know, he is doing it in the interest of American citizens' safety. First and foremost, right? Just get that out on the table. Now, I don't know exactly why so many people are getting their feathers ruffled, if you will, over this deportation, when once again, like I said earlier, they said nothing during the Obama administration. Nothing at all. And it's just fascinating to me to watch a lot of these people gnash their teeth about all this, get so mad and slam their fist on the table over this criminal alien situation, right? I know the Afghans, they're not really criminal aliens. They were absolutely brought into the United States. And I think that's something that needs to be looked at. I think the Trump administration is absolutely making an error in this, and I have no problem saying that if Donald Trump was in my face, I would have a few questions for him on that. Like a lot of these Alien Enemies Act, which Abrego, Armando, blah, 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 Garcia, they use the Alien Enemies Act to deport this guy. I would say, Trump, look, I get it. I think the Supreme Court made a good decision to allow him to use this, but make sure these people go through habeas hearings to make sure we're not deporting American citizens, right? I saw a news article earlier where an American citizen was detained for a while, right? I have a bit of a problem with that because, define the length of detention, though, because if it was just ICE agents, checking somebody's ID, do you have a social security card, blah, 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 where's your birth certificate type of thing. Look, I get it. I totally get that. However, if it was detention for any longer than that period, hang on, we have a problem. And I would also love to see probable cause on a lot of this. What's your probable cause to detain an American citizen? Right? That needs to be worked out because you can't just conclude that this guy might be a criminal alien and go and detain somebody and hold them there until you figure that out. That's not how our system works. We have amendments to protect us from those things. And this is the challenge for the Trump administration. And it's a definite challenge. And they're crossing some lines somewhere. Maybe not too far. You might think it is too far. That it is what it is, though. So, are we going to live with this? Or what can we do about this except voice our opinions? Challenge your ideas. Get onto YouTube. Make a video, for crying out loud. Let people know how you feel. Get out there and speak your mind. Speak your voice. Challenge your own ideas. Go watch opposition media. Go watch people you don't agree with. Listen to their ideas openly and honestly so we can have diversity of thought, because we need to come together. As Bill Maher has preached for a very long time, we don't need to hate each other just for the sake of hating each other, right? We need to come together. People need this diversity of thought, right? And once again, like I said, diversity of thought is not, staying in your echo chamber and just having a whole bunch of people saying the exact same thing. That's not diversity of thought. Diversity of thought is challenging your ideas, getting out there, debating with other people that you don't agree with to work your ideas. And once again, when your ideas come through as the winner, when challenging your ideas reinforces your ideas, that's when you know you're on the right side of history. And once again, I've heard all the arguments for all of this, right? All of the deportations. I've heard the arguments. I understand the due process. But once again, a lot of people don't understand, right? Due process is it's foundational to the Constitution, as a matter of fact. And so a lot of liberals, they're just screaming due process on this. But you know what? The due process is for criminal aliens, essentially. Are you an American citizen? That's all the due process is, as a matter of fact. Are you an American citizen? Did you claim asylum? Just simple questions. And then that's it. If the answer is no, you're not an American citizen, you get deported. That is it. That is all there is to it. But like with the tariffs stuff, am I a little bit skeptical? Yes, I am. A lot of people take my stance on these tariffs as just blindly following the dear leader. Well, no, that's not it. Because, yes, I understand prices will go up. Totally understand that. I totally understand it creates market instability. Totally get it, right? But once again, I'm trying to look at the other side of this. And I also go against the corporate press narrative. I'm trying to combat the corporate press narrative that they're constantly screaming, it's a tax on you. Well, that's not really true. Sure, you want to ignore all the nuance. Sure. But there's a lot of nuance to that because, once again, it is a tax on the companies that import whatever products into the United States. That is who they're taxing. So if you want to get mad because price go up, then get mad at the corporation for making price go up. Don't get mad at the guy who is trying to save this country, who wants to slow down these imports, who wants to bring back manufacturing. It's not his fault. Make it the fault of the previous generations of presidents, Congress, all the lawmakers, the politicians in this country for not doing anything about the unfair trade deals that we were getting from all over the world, about the extraction from the wealth of this nation that our forefathers built up over generations, planted trees whose shade that they knew they wouldn't sit under, for crying out loud, and knew that you would get to one day enjoy that shade. And now, what do we see? We see foreign countries coming in and trimming the limbs off of that tree. That is what has been happening for decades now. We've lost 90,000 manufacturing jobs over the past, 60 years, something like that. We've been extracted from, and it's gotten to a point to where something drastic had to be done. Is it going to be easy? Is it going to be fun? No. Absolutely not. And once again, it's going to take time. It's going to take a little while to get things back to normality. But once again, something had to be done, because if you continue to extract the wealth from this nation will no longer exist, folks. Our economy will collapse. Our government spending is $1.8 trillion into the red. That's in a deficit, folks. That means they're spending $1.8 trillion that we don't have, that has to be printed out of nowhere. Diluting the value of the dollar, making your purchasing power go down. So once again, if you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at the people that decided we're going to kick the can down the road and extract from your children's future of this country, and allow the rest of the world to extract the wealth, and we're just going to kick the can down the road because we're too scared to do anything about it. We're too scared to stand up and say, this is unfair. You're manipulating your currency to crash the balance of fair trade. We no longer have fair trade in this world, folks. No longer. We haven't had fair trade for a very, very long time. And Donald Trump finally said something has to be done. You might not think it's a good idea, but what's the solution? Once again, you hear a lot of these people. They're saying, oh, this is bad. These tariffs are going to blah, 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 blah. They offer zero solutions, right? You know, I at least give a little bit of credit to Cenk Uygur over here for at least offering some sort of solution, but it's a cowardly solution. Oh, roll this out slowly over time. Why? So you can allow the market to adjust and they can just figure out a way to manipulate the tariffs or whatever to get around these tariffs so they can move manufacturing to a country that's not having tariffs imposed on them? No. This has to be done all at the same time. Once again, it's analogous to, essentially, when you have a wound that has a Band-Aid on a part of your body that has a lot of hair. You do not slowly peel that Band-Aid off. Hurts too much. Do it all at once. You get an adrenaline boost, and it doesn't really hurt all that bad. That's what Donald Trump did. He ripped the Band-Aid off of the wound. It said it's time to breathe. It's time for everything to get back to normality. And I think we're seeing the signs. Once again, it's going to be a while before we actually figure out if this actually worked. But I'm being optimistic about this. I'm seeing the signs that, hey, look, these countries are investing. I've seen story after story after story. There's trillions of dollars being invested into the United States just because of the tariffs. Simply due to this. So you can't say it's not looking like it's working, because it is. Initially, sure, It's looking like it's working. But the corporate press, they're not telling you about any of this. They just keep pounding it into your brain that it's a tax on you, and I can't stand that. And I've ran long on this one, y'all. So I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this one down in the comments section. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. I would greatly appreciate that. And y'all subscribe and all that googly gobbly stuff. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.